Heat shimmered over the Nile. Beyond the green strip of cultivated land, the desert arose in silence. Stone, sand, and sky stretching into Upper Egypt. Here, in the ancient city of Thebes, temple walls carried stories older than Greece itself. In the 5th century BC, a Greek historian came here searching for answers. His name was Herodotus. He wanted to understand something simple. Where did the gods come from? At Thebes, Egyptian priests told him a strange story. 2 women, priestesses, had been taken, carried away across the sea. One was brought west unto Libya, the other to Greece. There, in the mountains of Epirus, at a place called Dodona, the story changed. The women became doves. Black doves, they said, flew from Egypt. One landed in Libya, the other settled in an oak tree at Dodona, and spoke with a human voice. It commanded the people, "Build an oracle," and they obeyed. Herodotus did not believe the doves were real. He offered something far more interesting. The women were called doves, he said, because they spoke a foreign language. To Greek ears, it sounded like birdsong. And the detail that they were black, that simply meant burnt as an Egyptian. No miracle, no myth, just a woman far from home, speaking in a voice no one understood. But this raises a larger question. How did she get there? The ancient Mediterranean was not isolated. It was connected. Ships moved constantly, carrying goods, textiles, and people across the coastlands. Sometimes willingly, sometimes not, in an age over 1,000 years before Jason and the Argonauts. Egyptian records from the reign of Sahir, around 2400 BC, describe raids on the Nile Delta. Foreign ships, unknown peoples, arriving from the sea. Some historians connect these raiders to early Aegean populations, groups later remembered as the Pelasgians. If that is true, then this is what we are seeing. Not myth, but movement. In Epirus, the sanctuary of Dodona was unlike any other in Greece. There was no grand temple, no marble columns. At its center stood an oak tree, living, sacred. The earliest inhabitants of this region, often called the Pelasgians, were remembered as people of the forest, tree fellers, builders. If they could cut oak, they could build ships. If they could build ships, they could cross the sea. And if they crossed the sea, they could reach the land of Egypt. Now the story begins to align. Aegean seafarers sail south. They strike the Nile Delta. They take captives. Among them, a priestess. She is brought back, far from her pharaoh, across the Mediterranean Sea, to Epirus, to Dodona. There beneath the oak, she speaks. Her language is foreign, her rituals unfamiliar, but over time, her knowledge takes root. Adapted, reinterpreted, absorbed. What begins as a memory becomes tradition. What begins as a voice becomes a god. There are other traces of this movement. Hidden in unexpected places, in Greek ritual, there was a lament called the Linos song. Associated with suffering, with grief, with ritual process. But the method behind it reveals something deeper. In Egypt, flax was not cut. It was pulled from the earth. The same technique appears in later Greek ritual. Not European, but Egyptian. The practice moved, and it did not move alone. Before there was a Greece, there was something older, a world remembered as Pelassia. Its people, the Pelasgians, were said to be the first inhabitants of the land. Among them stands a figure, Pelassus of the flesh of Apis, a founder, a king, a lawgiver, a bringer of order. He is linked to early worship. He is linked to this early worship of Zeus. He is linked to early worship at Dodona and to the earliest form of Zeus. We often imagine Zeus as eternal, fully formed, ruler of Olympus. But this is the end of the story, not the beginning. At Dodona, Zeus was something simpler, a presence in the oak, a voice in the wind, a local god. But as ideas spread across trade routes, across cultures, across time, he changed, he grew, he absorbed. From a tree spirit to a sky god, to the ruler of a divine order of old and Indo-Europeans. What survives in myth as doves is something else entirely, a memory of movement, of contact, of violence, of exchange. A priestess taken from Egypt, a voice carried across the sea, a ritual planted beneath an oak, and from that, a god begins to take shape.